What's up, y'all? My name is Pia Satana, and today I will be helping you figure out how you can pick your classes. Full disclosure, I'm making this in the spring of 2021, so if you are taking classes in 2023 or 2025, I don't know, in sometime in the future, some of this may not be the same for you, so check with your advisor. But as of right now, this is kind of like what you should be looking at when you are trying to figure out your 4-year plan as a music ed major. So, how do I go to the next slide? First question we got to answer is, who is this guide for? This guide is for current and prospective music education majors, specifically those with a choral emphasis. This is important because instrumental emphasis majors have different classes that they need to take. And so, if you are one of those, you can follow a similar process just using different classes. But hopefully this guide will kind of give you an idea of how to sort of go about arranging your classes. Also, I go to San Jose State, and so all of these things are coming out of San Jose State's requirements for graduation for the School of Music and Dance and for your GEs. If you're trying to use this as a guide and you go to a different university, check with someone who goes to your actual university. This is just a guide specifically for San Jose State students. Sorry, everyone else, but here we go. Here is how we're going to be approaching this 4-year plan. We're going to go year by year, semester by semester, and just fill things in as we go along based on the different types of classes that you need to fill. In each of these, we'll have our fall semester and we'll have our spring semester, because those sometimes will have classes that are only offered in one semester or the other. And when we have sequences, that becomes really important. We're also going to be taking a look at the units per semester, because we don't want to overload ourselves whenever we're signing up for classes, and we want to consider all of the requirements that we're getting filled at the same time. So we're keeping an eye on that. Here are our primary considerations: semesterly requirements, major sequences, general education courses, and semester availability. When putting together your 4-year plan, we really want to kind of consider each of these things separately, even though they are really all intertwined. Here's an important notice: GE courses must be considered alongside your major courses in order to ensure you are closer to being on track for 4 years. Most music ed students at San Jose State do not graduate within the 4 years, and that's often because of conflicts that arise because certain classes conflict with other classes that are necessary, or GE courses aren't being considered until they get closer to graduation, in which case they're running out of time. Big takeaway: don't forget about your GEs, plan everything together. At San Jose State, you have semesterly requirements as a music education major. Those two semesterly requirements are your applied lessons and your major ensembles. Together, they make happiness with music. Your applied lessons are your private voice lessons with your voice teacher, and then your major ensembles are things like concert choir. Since these are happening every single semester, we might as well just put them in every single semester. And so that's exactly what we did here, adding your applied lessons, which are 2 units every single semester, and concert choir every single semester. It is possible to switch out concert choir with a different ensemble. However, that is something that you should take to your advisor, because I believe that those are being switched on a case-by-case basis. The next primary consideration are major sequences. There are several sequences in the music education program that require you to pay attention to which classes you are taking when, because the material in these classes build on each other. These major sequences are the music theory sequence, piano proficiency sequence, Western music history sequence, professional track sequences, and lyric diction sequence. So let's start off with the music theory sequence. When you start off as a music ed major, the first thing that you're going to do is sign up for a music systems class. And within the first 2 classes, you'll have to be taking some sort of assessment or placement exam, and that will determine whether or not you have the prerequisite skills to be in the music systems class. If not, you'll be placed into music fundamentals, which will give you the basic vocabulary to be successful in music systems 1A. When making your 4-year plan, this is important for you to consider which of these you are taking first, because music systems 1A is only offered in the fall. So you take music fundamentals, or you jump straight into music systems, and there are 4 music system classes that you have to be taking. Technically there's 8, there's an A and a B, but they kind of go together. Note, if you fail a class and you need to retake it, you'll have to wait an entire year. Then that will really set you back. So These music system courses are really important for you to make sure that you spend enough time to really get familiar with the material, and really it'll help you in so many of your other classes going forward. The next step in the music theory sequence is form and analysis, followed by orchestration. So if we're starting the music theory sequence with music systems 1A and B, this is what your 4-year plan will start to look like. You've got your music systems in your lower division years, and then you'll add form and analysis and orchestration later on. I chose to put form and analysis and orchestration at the bottom in my last year so that just in case something happened and I needed to retake a class, I would have that 3rd year to make up. If it were the case that you needed to start with music fundamentals, you can still do the same thing, but you can see that the music systems classes have just been shifted down. In this case, you are using your 3rd year for those classes. Going forward in this guide, I'm going to be using the plan that starts with music systems 1A and B because that's what I used when I was making my own 4-year plan. I just want to make sure that I acknowledge that every single person's journey is different and that everyone comes to university with different skill sets. And so whatever your plan looks like by the end of this, that's your plan. That's your own journey that you're kind of sketching out, and I want you to remember that you can be extremely flexible with this stuff. The next thing to consider is the piano proficiency sequence. As a music major, you need to pass a piano proficiency exam that will consist of your major scales, minor scales, arpeggios, basic chord progressions, sight reading, and a performance piece. You can find the faculty member who is in charge of the piano proficiency exam and try and test out of it, or you can choose to just take the piano proficiency sequence, which is a series of 3 classes, music 25A through C, which is what I did because I didn't play much piano. Those were super helpful for me to get more comfortable at the piano. So I went ahead and just added it here, piano proficiency 1, 2, and 3. In all honesty, playing piano actually really helped me with all of my music systems classes. So I highly recommend take your piano proficiency as early as you can. Don't wait. The next sequence is going to be Western music history, and this is actually really fun because we have such amazing music history professors at San Jose State, Dr. Haramaki and Dr. Berman. Fun fact, San Jose State is the home of the IRF Brilliant Center for Beethoven Studies. We just call it the Beethoven Center, and it is such a cool place to go and visit. They've got so much information about Beethoven's life, plus several historic instruments that you can actually go and play. They'll have concerts in there sometimes, and they've even got a couple of locks of Beethoven's hair. So, really cool. Anyways, back to planning your classes. There are 3 main classes in the Western music history sequence: medieval and Renaissance, Baroque and classical, romantic and modern. For medieval and Renaissance music, you should have completed 2A and 2B of your music systems. So just keep that in mind when you're planning when you're going to start your music history sequence. Another thing to consider, the music history sequence you don't actually have to take in order, although I would highly recommend you do so that you can have a coherent narrative throughout. When you're adding these to your plan, this is generally what that looks like. I would recommend you start your music history sequence halfway through your 2nd year, just like how I have it here. Of course, you can move it down as you need to. As we're adding more classes, pay attention to the unit load and how it increases. As a music ed major, you just take a lot of classes. The next major sequences that you have to consider are the professional track sequences. I say sequences because they're really kind of combining 2 major sequences. It's music education and conducting. So the brackets that I have here on the left indicate how I would group the semesters based on content, and really the conducting sequence in the middle, beginning conducting, advanced conducting, teaching choral music, those all go together in a lump that you would take one after the other after the other. Foundations of Music Ed is an introduction to the professional world of music education. And then the Field Experience class 142 is you going out into different classrooms to observe, take notes, and get some experience working with students. Your conducting classes are obviously teaching you how to conduct. Choral Methods is primarily focused on rehearsal techniques. And then you finish out with practicum and music for children. That's what I'm taking this semester. What I'll do with these 4 major groups is just transplant them directly into my plan, like so. You can see that the unit load is really put on the fall of year 3 and the spring of year 4. that's okay because you have a whole bunch of other classes that will be equalizing the unit load in those other semesters in your upper division. Another thing to consider is the lyric diction sequence, which is a series of 2 classes where you're primarily learning IPA skills and non-English diction skills. These are really important as a singer because you'll be singing so many things in so many different languages. Because it is such an important class for singers, it's recommended that you take this as soon as possible. So you'll take lyric diction in the fall and spring of your first year. And if you don't pass those classes, you really should aim to retake them as soon as possible because they are so relevant to what you're doing in your applied lessons. Moving on to the next primary consideration, your general education courses. I am not a GE advisor, nor am I really a music ed advisor. However, I have words of wisdom regarding this because I was able to get it done. It is important to note that some required majored classes count towards your GE credits. So when you're planning out your GE classes, remember that you have some of them already filled out by your major classes. So don't double up if you don't need to. I took 2 AP classes in high school that counted towards my GEs, and so I was able to knock those out of the park. This guide is going to assume that you haven't fulfilled any GE requirements prior to your first semester as a first year freshman. I highly recommend getting one of these planning worksheets directly from San Jose State University. You can find it on their website or just Google SJSU GE worksheet and this will pop up. It is one of the most useful worksheets that you will get from San Jose State, I promise you. If you're a transfer student and you've got all of these GE requirements done away with, awesome. So if we're assuming that you haven't fulfilled any GE requirements before becoming a freshman at San Jose State, these are going to be the requirements that you still need to fill after considering your major classes that will count towards GEs. And it is at this point that I offer you the magic shoes to choose your own adventure. There are some important considerations that you need to make when you are specifically adding GE courses. If you are coming in to be a music education major, whether you're a first year student or a transfer, we all love making music, and suddenly we're in a place where there are so many different ensembles doing so many different types of music, you just want to do them all. That is 100% a normal thing, and we love that stuff. However, taking more ensembles will increase your unit load. And so I would really recommend you keep that in mind when you're thinking about what GE classes you are going to be taking and prioritize your GEs. If you find that you really want to be in multiple ensembles, then plan to take your GE class at your community college during the winter or spring semesters. Another tip, GE courses will sometimes fill multiple requirements, so keep your eye out on those classes that will. Do your research. San Jose State literally has a list of each requirement in every single class that it can fulfill, plus little blurbs that will tell you if certain classes will fill multiple requirements. So it is so helpful to do your research. My last big tip when you're considering these GE courses is to consider doing your lower division GEs first, then filling in your major classes, and then filling in your upper division GEs last. You'll see why in a bit. Side note, this guide is not going to include non-required ensembles because we're assuming that you haven't filled any of your GE requirements before. This is the pick your own adventure thing, so find your priorities of when you want to do your GEs and when you want to be in these non-required ensembles, or if you would like to tag on a semester at the end so that you have enough time to do all the fun things. It's up to you. It's your adventure. So have fun with it. So like I said, we're going to add our lower division GE courses first. In fall year 1, you are most likely going to be signed up automatically for Music and World Cultures, which will fulfill your C1 requirement, and a GE Area E course. Regardless, don't be freaked out. Everything is okay. You can fill in the rest of your GE requirements in the other semesters. Since this is just a sample 4-year plan, I front-loaded the GEs so that there is more room for major classes in our next step. The next step is adding in all of your music classes that don't fit within a sequence. And this is where it can be a little bit tricky because of limited seats in each class. Note, most music classes that you are required to take are only offered in either fall or spring. When you're considering the music sequences, you can kind of see how they're either all fall or spring. Based off of our 4-year plan so far, these are the major courses that you still need to add, and so we're going to find different places for it. The 3 classes that we really need to pay attention to now are the woodwind, brass, and string fundamentals courses. There's a fall offering and a spring offering. However, those fundamentals courses are also sequenced in and of themselves. And so you basically have beginning woodwind fundamentals in the fall and advanced woodwind fundamentals in the spring. And then it's the same way for brass and for string fundamentals. So that's why you're only able to take the fall semester for those courses. Just a quick rundown of all of these: guitar fundamentals, written communications, which by the way is colloquially called 100W just in general. And then Worlds of Jazz, your senior project jazz improv, woodwind fundamentals, brass fundamentals, percussion fundamentals, string fundamentals, and then you've got 2 chamber ensembles. If you're in the marching band, odds are you can get both of the chamber ensembles filled out at once because you just need 2 units for chamber. So here we're adding our remaining major courses. I went ahead and just filled it in. I started with the brass and woodwind and string fundamentals classes and I put those in right away, and then just filled other things in as I went. There are 2 things that I need to mention. One, 100W, or written communications or writing workshop, there's several names it goes by, that requires you to pass your WST, which you should be taking before your 3rd year. So sometime during year 2, you'll take a WST, which is basically a writing skills test. I think it was like write 2 to 4 pages about a time when you failed and you got back up. It was a really simple prompt and is basically asking you to show that you know how to write coherent sentences and form larger ideas. The second thing, your senior project, is going to be your senior recital. As a music ed major, you only need to provide 1 recital. Some other majors will require 2 recitals, but as a music ed major, only 1. And that is most likely going to be your last semester at state. Now that we've added all of the remaining music classes that we need for our major, we can now add the remaining upper division GE courses that we need to take. So in the sample guide that we're creating right now in this video, we're still missing SJSU Studies Area R, Area V, and these other graduation requirements. So let's go ahead and add those in. Voila. They are in. Notice that I split the PE classes. The only reason for doing that was so that I had a more even workload. You can of course move things around as you like. And here we have a completed 4-year plan. It's amazing. It's so complex. Yes, there are a lot of units, but that is because being a music education major requires you to know a lot of things. We just have a lot of classes to take, but that's the life. So if you're planning on graduating in 4 years and these unit loads look very daunting, I cannot stress this enough. Take summer and winter classes. They'll be so helpful and allow you to have time during your fall and spring semesters to do fun things like join opera theater or do marching band or be in jazz choir or collegium. So there are a whole bunch of different things that you could be doing if you got your GEs out of the way as soon as possible. Those are my 2 cents about that. If you like this plan or want to kind of base your thing off of it, take a screenshot. Be my guest. All good. I do want to say that this is not what every single plan needs to look like. This whole video is just to show you a process. And in understanding that process, you will have more flexibility to change things according to what you actually want to get out of your university experience. So we'll leave you with some final tips and reminders. Construct your own 4-year plan based on this process before your advising appointment. If you're familiar with all of the sequences and when they occur, your advising appointment will go so much faster and so much smoother. Again, do your research to see which classes may overlap in fulfilling your GE requirements, and if you can, get your GEs covered during the winter and summer semesters, either at San Jose State or your local community college. Another thing, consider how adding non-required ensembles will affect your unit load. Because we love making music with other people, oftentimes that's the whole reason we're here. Play to your strengths if you expect certain classes to require less intensive work outside of class. If you already know how to play a trumpet, odds are brass fundamentals is going to be much easier for you to get a grasp on, at least for half of the semester. So ask other students and alumni about the expected workload for different classes that you might be taking. And finally, make your plan, know the sequences, and be flexible. Be flexible. Flexible. I don't know how else to say it. Flexibility, flexibility. Yeah, yeah, yeah. And that is like 95% of what you need to consider when you're picking your classes to be a music ed major at San Jose State with a choral emphasis. Hey yo, welcome to the club. And that is all that I have today, folks. Y'all have a good semester, please. Whether you're going to San Jose State, or you're a high school student wanting to go to San Jose State, or you just stumbled across my videos because I don't know. I hope you have a great spring semester. You take care of yourself. But just have a good one. I'll see you next time.